Welcome back to the CONVO Couch, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pastor Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
So, we've been making a lot of videos since we've been doing this here, but this is, to me, and the last video we did, some of the most important videos we made. The one we just did with Rusty Hicks and explaining the California Democratic chair and how much power they have and everything that's, encompassed in what happens in California, being one of the strongest Democratic parties is really important. But in this particular video, we are going to talk about something called the CRC and the Credentials Committee, because what it is they have a Credentials Committee with these ADEM elections. Now, just to digress real quick, all the delegates at the conventions were able to vote on the chair. The ADEMs, which are the election process, for the delegates, which are the elected people, there are 7 men, 7 women for each district that get elected. They had these particular elections. And all I have to say is that from what I saw, democracy is still under attack. We haven't got it right. Everybody calls for this unity without any accountability, but more or less, they're not even doing it right, fam. They're not performing proper elections. Mm-hmm. So in this little room tucked away, and this is the reason why we left early. We could have stayed here and went to the Bernie Sanders Pasadena rally, but we wanted to get up there for certain reasons. I wanted to get up there too as well to get into these hearings for these ADEM elections, because the Credentials Committee, which is a small little room in the furthest most building, quiet, tucked away on the 3rd floor, the highest floor, we have the Credentials Committee, the Compliance Review Commission, and we have certain members. We have Keith Emamoto, the co-chair of the Credentials. Laura Laramendendi, I can't even say her name, is the lead chair. And Michael Wagaman, the lead chair of the Credentials of this commission. They're all kind of like insider establishment people. They all had the Kamala Harris lanyard around their neck.
Which they were passing around to everyone, but I can confirm that, however you say her name, Larambe, she is a Kamala Harris supporter.
Yeah, can we even show some of Umamoto, some of his ties to Hillary Clinton? There's a nice old picture with him and Hillary Clinton back in the days. There's a picture of him and Tom Perez. Guy's a complete, here he is. Get that guy up there. Look at that guy. That's your guy who's going to decide whether the progressives get a fair shot or not. And remember all that stuff, fam, back in 2016 when people said the primary was with Tom Perez, one of my favorites. I love Tom Perez.
Don't you love
Tommy P, as I call him back in the days. Tommy P. But remember in 2016, fam, when all the people were saying, the establishment people, the elections might not have been fair, but Hillary would have had enough votes anyways.
This is exactly what they're saying now.
Same exact thing. So we paid close attention to Maria's Estrada 63, okay, because it's in our backyard. We paid attention to 51 because it was in our backyard. Mm-hmm. We paid attention to stuff down in Orange County. These elections were a sham. From everything to busing in voters, we saw the buses. Okay, we saw it. To non-Democrats voting,
we saw it, and
we filmed it.
We filmed it, and we had one of our guys almost not do it, but he could have done it.
So imagine you're a Democrat. You hate Donald Trump. A Donald Trump voter, we know, voted in this election. You know why? Because there's no what's verification process whatsoever.
It's a mess. Yeah. It's a mess. It's all over the place.
Which we'll go into that later on too as well. But I also want to talk about somebody else who was in that room, and this man has agreed to have an interview with me on Saturday. His name is David Atkins. David, thank you for taking the interview. I took the tweet down with your promise that you would meet with me, because we did meet outside the hallway, and you said we could film you, but you were against it. We have a little clip that I don't want to show what you said or anything. I just want to prove that we had a meeting outside. If you have the clip of me, there is me and David Atkins, okay? So there's no doubt that we met after. There's no question to that. All right. Okay, you said prefer not. So Johnny was right when taking down the camera. He just wanted to have the discussion. He didn't want to have it on the record. He wanted to put it down. So we did meet, but now he has agreed to meet with me some more. Now, David, to me, was the most influential person in that room. Okay, he wasn't the co-chair or the chair. Wagaman was the second most, Wagsy, as they call him, Wags, another insider over there. And I say insider because I'm saying establishment. These people are open about who they support.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's not Bernie.
It's not Bernie. And I find it really hard.
Or Tulsi.
They're not supporting progressives.
Yeah.
And when these people are making decisions and they're establishment friendly, it's hard to get a fair shake as is. And they didn't get a fair shake at all, as far as I'm concerned. But David Atkins was the most influential person in that room. Even people took the mic after him and said, I just want to echo what David said. Okay, and I saw this with my own eyes. We were sitting there, me and Johnny, right, Pesto? Me and Pesto were in that room seeing what was going on. And I could talk more about Umamoto if I want, because people talked about the decisions he's made. He helped Bauman get in office too. I could talk more about Wagman, but I want to concentrate on David Atkins because, like I said, he was the most influential person in that room. And as they were talking through this process, they were admitting that, number one, I want to talk about Maria Estrada's name was left off the ballot, off the e-board ballot. Now, are you really want the people to believe, not anybody from Maria's camp, not anybody from your camp, but the people to actually believe that a person who came in second, who challenged Rendon, who took Rendon to the wire, thousands of votes, was accidentally left off the ballot, fam?
Yeah, and that race, thousands of votes weren't counted because the majority of the people who coincidentally went to vote for her got provisional ballots, which Greg Palast says placebo ballots because they're rarely ever counted.
Yeah. So that was number one. Number two, they talked about institutional players going and whatnot. And you know what? Why don't we just dive in? Do you have the video of David Atkins? I want to show you what I'm going to tell you where to stop this, because this is the stuff to me where I'm confronted Dave about this. We're going to talk about more, but watch the video of what David Atkins had to say right before they made the decision whether or not to give another free and fair election, a first free and fair election to the people of Assembly District 63. Go right ahead.
Yes. All right. So I have to say I am appalled about this process at every level. This particular district, this is happening all across the state, but this particular district is sort of the ground zero for what has now become a completely broken ADIB process, and it angers me on all sides.
Yes.
As someone who is a regional director and the convener for 4 different assembly districts, and I did the convening myself. It is obvious that all sides basically have understood that we don't verify unless there's a challenge. And there are institutional players who clearly understood that and took advantage of it by bringing the folks. But then there are anti-institutional players who were already factoring in what they were already suspecting was going to be corruption, and then they were playing that to say oh well, they're going to do it, well we might as well do it, and then they're advocating on social media. I'm appalled that the regional director. So one thing I want to note is in one of my districts in 8037, staff did not put one of the e-board candidates on the e-board, just like what happened here. This is not the only district that's happened in. In 8037, we waited and started the ADEM half an hour late in order to get those reprinted. We got them reprinted on site. I do not understand why someone did not have a printer that could print these or go to at least a FedEx or something and do it. Why this was the process, it should have been possible. I do not understand.
Yeah.
So there was malfeasance and bad process following on all sides. That having been said, there's 2 things here for me. Number 1, the math remains the math. It is the responsibility of the organizers to bring their people, and it is quite clear that for the voters that we know that were ineligible don't make the difference enough to have allowed not only Ms. Estrada, but any of the rest of their slate to have taken over on the primary ballot. Number 2, the only direct evidence, I know there's circumstantial allegations, but the only direct evidence we have in writing of any individuals actually advocating non-voters to come in and vote was on behalf of Ms. Estrada. So I find it difficult to accept the premise that we should maximally count all the people who weren't eligible and then maximally count them against the winners of the apparent winners in this process, given the evidence that we have in front of us. So, and it's quite obvious, of course, that we absolutely need to be verifying from here on out because it's broken. And you know what? That makes me angry because as an organizer of this, these already take too long. The ADEMs are already broken because they take too long and they're hard to organize. You add a verification process on top of this, you break them more. So it looks like we're going to have to do it, but there's going to be negative consequences to that.
There's going to be work for the party to do to have free and fair elections, and I don't want to get into this too much because I have an interview with David, but what I just saw there was nothing short of theater. Because what you did is you voted against it after you said all those things. There were institutional players. You couldn't understand why the staff couldn't reprint ballots. There was malfeasance going on. There was flat-out fraud. However, I'm going to still vote in favor of the establishment, and I'm not going to let a free and fair election take place. It's just completely mind-blowing because you're a very smart man, David. So I don't know where this is coming from, where you think you could just throw all that out there, gaslight people, and then go the other way. And when it comes to Saturday, I'm going to be a gentleman, but I have a lot of questions for you.
And let me say this. There was an accusation made by him that Maria Estrada said is the only one that committed fraud because she made a statement like, oh, yeah, you guys, let's vote. It doesn't matter if you live in this district. It doesn't matter if we bust people in. Yeah, let's do that. She was saying it ironically because she's like, is that what it's going to take? Is that what it's going to take to be on even keel with each other? Is that what it's going to take to actually be able to maybe win an election? Do we have to cheat ourselves? So just like you guys are cheating in order to have at least somewhat of a balanced election.
And that was the evidence.
And they turned it around
That was the
and
evidence.
accused her of cheating when she was literally just saying it like, look, what is it gonna take? What do we have to do, right?
Yeah.
And it's really, the gaslighting here is really disgusting. It's really manipulative, and it's very, very obvious.
Yeah, and I'm saddened by you friggin' progressives out there that allow this behavior to take place. I mean, it's obvious to me that some of these people who consider themselves a Bernie person like Atkins can turn around and just join the party and continue to let the fraud keep going on. Do we have that lady in the commission, what she said? Now, this is an old school Democrat, and watch what this lady says, because it's just amazing. And take note, Wags. Take note, Keith. Take note, Atkins. Go ahead, roll it.
After hearing everyone, I do agree with the co-chair that we have to fix it up front. But I also have to say, and my colleague here, once fraud's been established, we've got to work on the standard. Once fraud has been established like that, we need to redo the election.
That's right.
I know that's something we have to work on, but I think it needs to be worked on. You mentioned checking with the rules, Chair. This is something that's coming out of this. We'll be sitting through here every time if there's not an expectation. Because I think that's prevented as well. Once people know, it's both things. It's on the front end, fix the check. But also, it can still happen. And if it happens, people should expect that there'll be another election. And that kind of stops when people know that once you're caught, that we're going to, this just rather changes the outcome. It's not setting what we want as our values. And I think we have to work on how do we do both. Do the checking, but then when there's the follow-up, and we can prove that there was a problem, then they need to know it didn't work. You're not going to get seated because we're going to have another fair election. And
respectful to Atkins, it's just, to me, this is like, the Democrats still don't get it. And here's the thing, this is by design. Okay, Rendon tapped Rusty Hicks to be the chair. That is Rendon's District 63. If 20% of the slate, of 20% of the ADEMs oppose an automatic endorsement to Rendon, then it stops an automatic endorsement. So they were never, ever going to let Maria Estrada or her slate be seated, okay? And all as far as I'm concerned is that Atkins, Wagaman, and everybody else on that credentials committee who voted against one free and fair election. I keep stuttering over this. You're just being an arm for the Democratic establishment that doesn't get it, has not learned, and will never get unity unless they have accountability and they change their ways. And this is more of the same.
And the Democratic Party cheated before, and they are cheating now, and they will cheat you again. And the reason why we're highlighting this, nobody's talking about this, by the way. Enough progressives aren't even talking about it. They don't even begin to understand it because it is complicated. And because they make it overly complicated, it pushes people away because then it becomes this boring thing that you have to figure out for yourselves. They don't want you to figure it out. They want you to continue to just not even pay attention so they can continue the status quo. And everything's okay. But no, it's not going to be okay until we get some sort of accountability for all the bullshit that's been going on behind the scenes, especially within the California Democratic Party, especially right before we have a presidential primary. Okay. And you have a couple other things you wanted to talk about.
Well,
right?
I want to just say one thing, too, as well, because there's a culture of avoidance, too, as well. That thank you for the people who sent us to San Francisco. Because we just weren't in there listening to the speeches. We were moving around, going around. And I was trying to get interviews with California Democratic Party insiders or leadership or what you're going on. I have a clip where I got a little frustrated because I tried to go to Mark Gonzalez and I asked him, hey, Mark, buddy, how about an interview? And I just wanted to talk about unity versus, accountability with him. I plan to have a one-on-one interview with him, not be insulting, and just talk to him straight up. But you know what he did? He blew me off. And when I went to Wagaman said, give him 30 minutes and come back. And when we went back, he wasn't there. Roll the little clip and just show my aggravation on the floor. Couch, being an independent grassroots media, sometimes can't get interviews. There's Mark Gonzalez over there. He did not want to talk. Mark Gonzalez, he's been hiding from us and avoiding for us. He was over at the Rusty Hicks chair, but he also chaired the LA Democratic Club, where he was in the bag for Rusty Hicks and changing the rules and the whole committee thing, and he was there. He was at the height of it. Some people even screamed up, how much are they paying you? We also asked the head of the CRC, Matt, who's the head of the Credentials Rule Committee, to talk to us, and just want to let you know we have our press passage on, we have our microphones, we look legit as can be, but yet we can't seem to get an interview because some of these people have identified who we are in California, and they know us as the fringe left. But anyways, we'll keep trying, we'll keep asking, and hopefully we'll get an interview soon. We got Nico House with us, we got Strat downstairs, we got Johnny Tsunami, Fiorella's running around the muck, and we'll be back, Convo Couch, MCSE Network, collaboration at the Cadem, California. Yeah, you didn't have to play that last part, but I wasn't going to stop you when I was doing my outro. Thank you, Johnny. But yeah, that's how it was. And I said Matt, but it was Michael Wagaman. I went over to Michael and I asked him for an interview. I got his card and everything like that. Wagaman Solutions. He was a consultant. Yeah,
you have to look to where all these people in the committee work, by the way. So most of them have their own marketing and firm companies. And these are not just any random person, working class person, representative of the people. These are hand-chosen people of the establishment who are not playing fair, and they know it, but they use some sort of platitude salad and formulaic donut language to get you to continue on a circular argument, so then you end up like either giving up or just getting too angry to even be able to argue because it's blatant and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all I want to go with this one, fam, because I could go into this more, but I want to be fair to David Atkins, straight up, have an interview. And like I said to David Atkins, because I'm not going to talk about these three, those are going to be with David Atkins. But I said this straight up. I'm the nicest guy you're going to get from my crew to interview you, by far. Everybody knows that. And I plan to be respectful, not call you names. However, when the gaslighting happens, I will call that out. You have every right to defend it. You have every right to defend your decision. But I'm going to let you know right now, the math doesn't mean Richard without accountability in a fair election. It's out the window. And that's why progressives aren't uniting with the rest of the party. That's why we're not going to sit down and take this, okay? You have to have fair elections. And from what we saw from going to the elections ourselves, fam, and then going into that committee, it was a crock of shit. And you know something? It was really kind of funny that you had the election, you had Maria Estrada's hearing at 9:30 at night, the same time when Margarita LeCobb was throwing a big burners dinner, so all the burners were over there.
The hospitality suite was opening up. People were all going to these parties. Yeah, the same time. So not that many people could go, or because people. I mean, you're competing with Bernie Sanders here.
Yeah.
And people were like freaking out about Bernie Sanders and the dinner and all this other stuff that happens at night because all these people want to hang out and have a good time now after the whole thing. And so you're putting her at a 9:30 slot, and don't tell me that's just random. Like it is just very obvious.
It's like the same thing. They left her name. Oh, it was an accident. Her name's off the freaking ballot.
You can explain every which way with very beautiful, perfectly crafted words how everything was legal and how you didn't do anything wrong, because pasta can be really nice, but I don't give a damn. And I'll tell you to your face, what you did is unethical. And there is no way you can turn it around and make it something that is rationalized and okay. And we are all pushing truth, and that's all I'm here to push. I have no desire to go after a person, but when people are corrupt and they're pretending to be progressive and they're over there shouting how progressive they are, and they're over there, pushing for Elizabeth Warren, they're over there pushing for other establishment candidates, and they turn around and talk about how they're socialist and progressive. Really, your actions speak louder than words, and your actions are saying so much right now, and you will be held accountable. And the progressives here, the activists, the people that are the grassroots that go in the streets, those people are the ones that are actually going to change things. Not you behind your little desk with your little pen and your little power ego that has gone clearly taken over this whole thing, because this isn't about the people anymore. This is about you all, your egos, your money, your jobs, and having that sort of title that makes you feel empowered because maybe you weren't empowered before.
Yeah.
But no, we're here to hold you accountable.
And it's not going to go unchecked. For Pasta Jardula of the CONVO Couch.
And Fiorella Isabel. CONVO out.
You got to say it, girl.